On to the John M. Huntsman School of Business at Utah State University's Focus Fridays. This is an initiative we started about 4 years ago, and we had great live events where we brought together senior executives, and then we did a few panels of business professionals to really provide our students with a broader view about the world that they were about to graduate into. And of course, with the public health crisis due to COVID-19, we have pivoted and are now streaming these live on YouTube. We're doing virtual Focus Fridays, and this is our last Focus Friday leadership forum for the year. Today is actually what would have been commencement. And unfortunately, again, because of the coronavirus crisis, we've moved commencement back to late August. I was just telling some of our guests that it just feels so strange to have an empty campus on commencement day, but here we are. So thank you for joining us. My name is Dave Patel. I'm the Associate Dean from the Huntsman School, and we have a fantastic panel of students and alumni to talk about daring the next mighty thing. Some of you know that Dare Mighty Things is the motto of the Huntsman School. So first up, we've got Sara Dent. She served as the business senator for the Huntsman School this past year and graduated with degrees in marketing and international business and is moving on to a job with Icon Fitness. I had the opportunity to work with Sara quite a bit over this past year, and I find her to be maybe the most organized student I've ever run across in 10 years at the Huntsman School. She has just been a phenomenal student, and I regard her as a colleague in many ways, and I'm so glad that she was able to join us on what would have been her graduation day to offer a few words about her experience at Huntsman School and at Utah State University and the lessons she learned and what she hopes to take away as she begins a new phase of her life. So Sara.
Hey, thanks, Dave. Yeah, I'm really excited for this next phase of my life. I never expected my college career to end this way, but I'm really proud to be a Huntsman student and an Aggie.
So Sara, tell us, you were involved in student government. You were in the Huntsman Scholar Program. You got to travel around the world with the school. You took part in a lot of different clubs. What if you could sum up in a couple of minutes, what were the things that tied those experiences together for you that led you to where you are today and where you're going in the future?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when I was preparing for this and thinking about my experience at the Huntsman School overall, I thought about every experience and they were all tied back to the idea of finding something that I was afraid of doing and then doing it. For example, when I applied for the SEED program, I went and interned in Peru. I was really scared about that. I was scared about living in a different country or scared about even not making it. But it led me to one of the most influential experiences of my life. And then when I applied to be on business council, I was really scared about that, but it was an incredible opportunity. And I quickly realized that fulfilling opportunities in life and education and work come through finding things that make you scared and then pushing yourself to accomplish those things. So the biggest thing for me was running for the position of business senator. Obviously, that was something scary, and it was something that I never imagined I would do, but I knew that it was something that would push me out of my comfort zone and it would be something very fulfilling. So thankfully, everything went well and I was able to be the business senator this year and really push myself. And I hope to do that throughout the rest of my career in not just being content, but finding new opportunities to push myself, to not be comfortable in my situation. Although I am excited to be comfortable for a little bit and take a few naps here and there. But yeah, I think overall, the Huntsman experience has pushed me to realize my potential, and that I can dare mighty things in my own way by consistently looking for new opportunities to grow.
Well, thanks for that. I mean, what a great way to go out into an uncertain world and to take a lesson that, you want to do things that you're afraid of doing. It's certainly a changed environment out there from an economic perspective. Before we let you go, Sara, I want you to, if you would, tell the story about how you came to arrive at the decision to run for business senator. I seem to recall you attended our She's Daring Mighty Things Summit, and in that, as part of that activity, challenge yourself. Can you tell us that story?
Yeah, so I think it was our first She's Daring Mighty Things panel, or maybe it was a second, but Amy Reese Anderson, she spoke, and she asked us the question, what would you do if you weren't afraid? And that really hit me, because I had pushed myself academically, and in preparing for my career up to that point. And I really and really took that message to, and it's one of the most fulfilling,
Well, thank you. Amy, we've got you. Well, thank you, Sara. I think we had a little bit of technical difficulties there, but we can. Good luck with Icon. I hope you're able to take some naps and not have to get up at the crack of dawn to get to your 7:30 accounting class. 30 years later, that's what I remember from Utah State, is having to get up for that 7:30 class, especially in January. That didn't feel good. Our next guest is Paul Parkinson. He's a friend and a former member of the board of the Huntsman School of Business. Paul graduated from Utah State University with degrees in economics and liberal arts, and has over 30 years of experience as a seasoned sales professional. He's currently the regional director for Philips Healthcare. Paul, welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Dave. Great to be here. I've been on hundreds of Zoom meetings the last few weeks. This is the first one I've actually had to show my face. And so when I woke up this morning, I realized I haven't had a haircut in a few months, and my hair is longer than it has been since the 80s. So pardon the 80s hairdo. I don't know a lot about Zoom protocol, so I wasn't sure if it was okay to wear my basketball shorts and my sandals, but that's what I'm wearing. So hopefully that's all right, Dave. But again, thanks for having me. In fact, years ago, I gave an award to Charlie Dent, as you know, who was the president of Nike and is a Huntsman graduate, and I had a pair of Nikes on stage, so I figured it'd be okay this morning to wear these Nike sandals. But I hope that those listening, especially the students, will take a few notes today as you listen to some of these great speakers that are lined up. I hope you'll just have some thoughts come to your mind. You'll jot a few things down, and then you'll go out and act on them. Let me just share a few things. A little over 7 years ago, having heard Dean Doug Anderson speak many times of daring mighty things, I decided to leave a successful career in the medical field and do something as daring as I could find. And so I wrote and produced a full-length feature film. Now, if you run out of things to watch on Amazon Prime, you can check it out under the title of Nowhere Safe. That'll be my only advertisement I'll give, but just I'd share the title. Anyway, in this process, I learned a lot about the rules and structures of good films and powerful stories, what made a good film and what made a powerful story. And one of the most important features of a good film is what some people call the inciting incident, or you might call it the big event. At the beginning of a movie, a character's life, it's in balance. Sure, they have some ups, they have some downs, but for the most part, there's reasonable balance in their life. The inciting incident or the big event is what radically throws this main character's life out of balance in such a way that they seek to restore balance to their life. Now that point in the movie takes us into Act 2, which is usually the longest part of the movie, where we watch the character grow, learn, struggle, and make choices. Near the end of Act 2, where we're somewhat close to the end of the movie, the character reaches a crisis point where they have to make a decision. And that decision then leads them into Act 3, where the conflict's resolved and the story ends. Again, think about any good movie you've watched that's been meaningful. And they all follow this pattern. Boy meets girl, boy loses girl, tries to get her back again, and then boy gets the girl back. One example I love is A Christmas Carol. Scrooge doesn't have the Christmas spirit. He sees a ghost, then he sees more ghosts. Then he faces a crisis when he sees his name on a tombstone, and he asks himself, is this fate or can I change? And then Scrooge gets the Christmas spirit, he helps others, and the movie ends. So again, think about all the movies you've watched, they follow this pattern. But the largest part of the movie is that Act 2. In simple terms, every movie has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Now, why do I tell you all of this? Because none of you are at the end of your movie or the stories of your lives. None of you are hardly even to the second act, which makes up the majority of the film. The coronavirus is not the crisis at which point you make a decision and the movie ends. The coronavirus moment for all of you students is perhaps your inciting incident or your big event. And remember, that normally happens at the start of the film. So you have your whole Act 2s, your whole middles ahead of you to learn, to grow, to struggle, to enjoy as you create the stories of your lives. Again, do not let this moment be the crisis or a crisis. Let it be the big event that takes you on a journey. It's been hard for us not to follow the news the last 4 to 6 weeks. I've tried as hard as I can to not sleep with my phone, to put it in the kitchen, and to just not constantly follow the news. Yesterday's headline when I woke up said, USU graduates launch into workforce under shadow of COVID-19. Now you can read this headline in one of two ways. One, you can focus on the word shadow, or you can focus on the word launch. I choose to focus on the idea of launching rather on that than on that of lying in the shadows. It's been said that the untimely, or in simple terms, the bad things that happen in our lives are caused in 3 different ways. Number one, the first way is due to our own actions. Something we do causes bad things to happen to us. Number 2, the second way is due to the actions of someone else. For example, someone steals your car. This has nothing to do with something you've done and everything to do with what the other person has done. But by far the most common reason bad things happen to us is this. It's just endemic. Again, it's just endemic to life on planet Earth. Now, if we've not heard enough demics in the last few weeks, let me just give the difference between epidemic, pandemic, and the word endemic, which I just used. An epidemic is limited to a region. For example, COVID-19, when it first started, was limited to Wuhan, China. It was an epidemic. A pandemic is an epidemic that then spreads over multiple countries or continents, which is what COVID-19 is now. Endemic, however, is something that belongs to a particular country or people. It's constant in its presence in a specific location. Malaria, for example, is endemic to Africa. Ice is endemic to Antarctica. It's always there. It's just the way life is in Antarctica. And so ups, downs, trials, challenges, bad things are endemic to people who live on planet Earth. It's the way it is. In most cases, like I said, it's not something you've done. It's not something that someone else has done. It's just the way it is. And the sooner we can accept that fact that not all trials and challenges or bad things are an account of our own behavior or choices, the sooner we can move forward with a different outlook on life. We really have 2 ways to face life. One is just to get back in bed and pull the sheets over our head. Or number 2, which I believe all you are taking, is to jump out of bed and recognize that our trials, our challenges, our unfortunate events are just endemic to human life, and they're just going to happen. And so we move forward and we create our own Act 2. Let me just end with a story that's a story of two individuals who graduated from the Huntsman school within the last few years. They also happen to be my son and my daughter-in-law, Isaac and Jill. Isaac and Jill were dreamers and doers, just like all of you. Their inherent spirit of adventure was further magnified as they were students there in the Huntsman School of Business. I'm not even sure how we stop that. All right, there we go. Again, new to these Zoom things like this. Jill was working in an ad agency and Isaac was working at an e-commerce company. Both of them had started side businesses that were gaining traction, so they quit their full-time jobs and they got cheap flights to Croatia for 6 weeks starting last September of 2019. They didn't have all the details planned other than they wanted to travel, so they just went. Because of time zones, they explored during the day and worked at night. And after being there for 4 weeks, they turned on the TV and saw that the airline they were supposed to fly home on, Thomas Cook, had gotten bankrupt. So they didn't have a flight home. So they kept going. A few days later, they went to check in for a short flight from Montenegro to Zagreb, Croatia. And that airline had gone bankrupt too. They were supposed to take that flight in the morning. So now they were stuck in Montenegro with no plan. They figured they had two options: find a new flight home or just keep going. So they got a new Airbnb in Montenegro and kept going. The cheapest flights from Montenegro were to Greece, and so they spent a month and a half on a small Greek island in Athens. They ate lots of heroes and met lots of great people. They kept working on their businesses that they had started, as I mentioned earlier, by playing hard and by eating local cuisine and relaxing at the beaches even. One of the cheapest flights from Athens was to Tel Aviv, so they checked off the one place in their bucket list they thought they never would travel to until later in life, and they spent a month in Israel. After that, they spent a month in Spain, and they came home right before the virus hit. Now they're back, they're working on their own companies and learning new things every day and daring mighty things. Again, a lot of this they were taught as students like you. But my point is they really had two options when the companies went bankrupt. And they chose to continue their adventure, and they've continued to collect adventures and not things, which is one of my favorite statements: collect adventures, not things. To end here, on the wall, I have a picture. It's the only thing I could find of the Aggie fight song. And if you'll just read it with me, think about how well it fits into this moment in time, as all of you have chosen to be Aggies. Show me the Scotsman who doesn't love the thistle. Show me the Englishman who doesn't love the rose. Think of those two words, thistle and rose, and the adversity that comes with those, as well as the beauty. Show me the true-blooded Aggie from Utah who doesn't love, right, love the spot where the sagebrush grows. Typically, sagebrush is viewed as a negative thing. But you as Aggies have this same Aggie spirit as outlined in the fight song. I know you're fighters, I know you're dreamers, I know you're doers, and I know that you'll continue to dare mighty things, because I believe this is perhaps the greatest moment in history for students like you to make a new start. Some call it the great pause. I like to call it the great reset. Things have been reset, they've been rebooted. It's a brand new time for you to make the most of your lives, to sit down and to think about, what do I want to accomplish with my life? And rarely in your life will you ever have this type of time to do that, to really think about and to go off and to dare and do mighty things. So thank you, Dave, for this opportunity.
Paul, thank you. What a great message. And there are so many takeaways from that, but I love that you encourage our students to not let this moment define them. I have my own Charlie Denson story. I remember when he came and spoke, one of the things he talked about, which really harkens to your message, he said, I won't go into the long story, but he said he had a conversation with Phil Knight, who was the CEO of Nike. And in that conversation, Knight said to Charlie, you have to show up and get in the game. And the larger point in that conversation was exactly what you talked about, right? And what the larger quote that Dare Mighty Things comes from, where President Roosevelt, the quote is called the man in the arena. And it's really about showing up and rolling up your sleeves and getting into the game, getting into the fight, come what may, rather than, as you talked about, pulling the blanket over your face. So thank you for that. We do have a question from our audience for you, Paul. And it's if you could relate, what did you learn from your time at Utah State as a student that's really helped you in your professional journey?
Yeah, I think one of the greatest things I learned was just the power of relationships and the power of people. I think Utah State is fun to all of us because of the people, whether it be the professors, the friends, the community people, those that we met. And there's literally thousands of stories of people who've come here to Logan, gone to school, and made these relationships and continued throughout their lives. And so as I think about the work that I do, it's really a people business. I'm in the sales profession, and the saying goes, people buy from people they like. And so establishing these relationships is critical to my business, but more importantly, it's critical to me as a person, to care about people and to have these relationships where when times like this hit, think about how many of us have reached out to old friends, to old family members. My high school friends, we've had texts going back and forth and have called it the COVID support group. And so, nothing beats the power of relationships. All of us can solve problems, but when it comes to people, we should put aside these, problems of things and worry about taking care of people. So I believe even in this time of crisis, that's where we'll see people really rise to the top, is those who understand how to care about people.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you, Paul. Our next guest, Amy Venezia, who is one of our great corporate partners. Amy works at North American Plastics. My first interaction with North American Plastics was when their CEO came and spoke at the Huntsman School, and I felt a great affinity for him. He's a former Marine, and I, in a previous life, worked closely with Marines. And I told him afterwards that it was great. He talked about the culture that he tried to build at North American, and I said to him, this is going to be a great partnership, because that is really the culture we're trying to build at the Huntsman School of Business. So we're so glad that Amy could join us today. Amy has been with North American Plastics since 2013, and she spent her first 5 years in a sales role in Baltimore. 2 years ago, she took over as the Director of Employee Development, and she oversees recruitment for all 90, it's a lot of travel, North American Plastics locations, along with onboarding all this new sales reps. So Amy, thank you for joining us. I look forward to your words today.
Thank you. It is so exciting to be here. I wish we could be there in person, that beautiful, beautiful business school with that gorgeous backdrop. But this is really the next best thing. So, I've really been learning a lot myself over the last several weeks. Just like Paul had mentioned, Zoom is new to a lot of us, learning how to virtual selling and virtual training, and Zooming into classes, and even just seeing businesses like my own that have really kind of stepped up in a challenging time and really changed the core business that we do to be really successful. And I'm just honestly so proud of what I've been able to see. I'm really proud of what's going on out there. And I've also learned a lot about myself, and I hope that each one of you is taking the time to do the same thing. I really hope you're making the best of this time. And maybe you're doing that by setting some challenging goals for yourself. It's hard to keep a routine. It's hard to keep yourself kind of excited and motivated. Maybe you've said, hey, I'm going to run a 5K or a 10K or a half marathon at the end of this. And you've set some weekly running goals for yourself. Or maybe you've checked out some hobbies you never thought you'd be interested in, and now you've got a little more free time on your hands and you're looking into those, or learning a new language, whatever it could be. I really do hope you're making the best of this time. I've heard all these really great stories of students all around the country who, some are opening businesses, and there's all these great things that are going on. But I think this time of relative isolation really can be good for us. But I do also want to say, maybe you're not having the best time. Maybe you're not having any earth-shattering breakthroughs or living your best life, and maybe you're not in that category. And I just want to take a moment to say that that's also okay. And it's okay, everything on social media sometimes is a highlight reel. And if you're not thriving like maybe you really hoped you would be this month, that's okay too. It's okay to have really good days followed by really bad days. That's pretty normal. And I think you would hear a lot of other people are kind of feeling the same thing. So what I just want to say is no matter where you are on that spectrum, maybe you are thriving, you're living your best life, you're creating, you're challenged, or maybe you're just kind of getting through your day to day and that's the best you can do. Both of those are okay. And what I want you to do is be so proud of yourself because you're here right now. The fact that you are sitting in your seat, how lucky, how privileged are we that we have laptops and Wi-Fi in a house? I mean, we could not be more lucky. I'm just so proud of you because the fact that you're here right now means that every single day this semester, regardless of the changes, regardless of maybe moving out of state, going back home, wherever you might be, every single day you chose not to give up. Every single day you came to class, virtual or not, you studied for your exams, you took your exams, maybe you even graduated. How amazing is that? That in the midst of this, you still graduated. So if this right here today is just the only thing you can even come up with, you should feel really great about that. That's enough. That's more than enough. And that's more than a lot of people can say. So I'm just so proud of each one of you, no matter where you are. I also want to just give you a challenge. I want to give you a challenge and maybe you're not going to run a half marathon, but maybe you're going to challenge yourself to go for a walk every day. I hear Utah weather is finally in the 60s, which is nice. Maybe the snow might start to be melting, but cold or not, get some air in your lungs and get your heart pumping. I've been taking 10 minutes personally every day. And honestly, closing my eyes and feeling my heartbeat and taking a deep breath. I'm genuinely doing that. And as was just described, I'm kind of used to traveling around the nation and I'm always on a plane or in a hotel or talking to somebody. And it's been really nice to actually say, let's just slow it down. This pace is going to come back probably sooner than we're all ready for it. So let's just enjoy this moment here. Connect with your spouse, connect to your family. So I just want to challenge you to pick a few goals for yourself, and they can be small, but focus on the good no matter what. No matter what happens, just focus on the good. Focus on how grateful you are. Have a moment of gratitude in your every single day. And maybe this last month has been your best month ever. I hope it has been. I hope this has been the best month of your life. But regardless, when we zoom out on our lives at the end of all this, when we zoom out and we look back at this tiny fraction of time, I really want you to be proud of what you see. I want you to be proud of that time. And you can do that. You can do that here and now. And again, even if this is your accomplishment, if this is the one thing you come back to and say, I graduated, or I came and I finished that semester strong. Maybe you're doing some things that you didn't think you'd be doing this summer, taking a job that wasn't the job you had in mind, or doing something different for your internship, or maybe you've decided to go back and get your MBA. What an amazing time to invest in yourself. I want you to be proud of what you look back and see. There was a really interesting quote that I saw, admittedly on social media, and it kind of gave me a chuckle because it's just so simple. And sometimes the best things are just really darn simple. So the quote says, "Things work out best for those who make the best of how things work out." It's just so simple. Make the best of this time. Even if what you're doing now is planned or totally unplanned, you're exactly where you're meant to be right here in this moment, whether it's what you wanted it to look like or not. This is where you are meant to be. And I want you to trust that. I really want you to trust that. You are going to learn so many amazing things. Life is about being resilient and being positive and seeing the best in everything and making the best of everything. Anything is possible while that heart is still beating, while you're doing your 10 minutes. Anything is possible while that heart is still in your chest beating. And it's really stinking hard to defeat somebody who just simply won't give up. It's just really stinking hard. And I know that describes all the students at the Huntsman School of Business. I've seen it and I'm watching it now still. And I just cannot wait for all the mighty things that are in store for each of you. So thank you for having me with you this morning.
Thank you, Amy. That was just fantastic. And exactly what I expected from you, having gotten to know you in your few visits to Logan, Utah. Thank you very much. Our final guest today is Brady Murray. I think this is a great segue. Amy talked a little bit about getting outside and challenging yourself to go for a 10-minute walk. I know Brady has been doing more than a 10-minute walk for a long time. We won't belabor how long that's been. I will say, and I always tease him whenever we're together, whether it's virtual or when he comes to campus. I will dare say that Brady got up earlier today than anybody who's on this Zoom or on live on YouTube watching this, because he's made a practice of doing that. Brady, thank you for joining us. It's probably getting towards 9-10 hours that you've been up already, and I barely got up an hour ago. So you beat me to it once again.
I have to tell you,
Brady,
with the better weather, it makes it a lot easier to get up early. That's for sure.
that is exactly right. Brady is a member of the National Advisory Board for the Huntsman School of Business. He's an Aggie and graduate in accounting. He was a great student athlete just a little bit north of Logan, Utah. He is now the president of Capstone Partners, located in Lehigh. And like Paul, has had a lot of things on his plate besides his professional career. And I'm sure that Brady will tell us all about some of that. So thank you, Brady, for joining us.
Yeah, it's great to see you, Dave. How's everything going in Logan?
It's all right. I haven't gotten on the trails yet.
Yeah, I am dying to get up to Logan. I think I may try and get up there next week and do a little fishing. So it's great to be with everybody today. I've thought about what I wanted to share, and a lot of thoughts came to my mind. And more than anything, I think I just want to tell you a story. And so this story started actually at Utah State. And it was when I met my wife, Andrea. She was a student at Utah State. I had just got back from serving a church mission to Peru, and was introduced to her. I had a very close friend that when I got back, I said, I want to start dating. And I had this laundry list of what I would hope for a girl that I would date. And he looked at me and he just shook his head and he's like, you got to be kidding me. And he said, there actually is one girl in my biology class that's pretty cool, and I want to introduce you to her. He introduced me to her, and that started our courting and what later turned into marriage. So at Utah State, Andrea and I, our very first date was actually going to a special needs dance at the institute that's there on campus. When we went there, I remember specifically asking Andrea his questions. We were just talking a lot, and one thing led to another, and she brought up that she had always wanted to start an orphanage in South America, which I thought was kind of cool because I like South America. The orphanage thing was a little strange for me, but then she said she wanted to do foster care, and I thought, good for you. And that's kind of where I left it. We went a couple of years later, and we didn't have any children at that time, and we had tried to have children and we were unsuccessful. And she brought up the idea again of foster care, and my mindset and thought of what foster care would look like, I had no interest in that. That was not logical. Okay, every reaction within me pointed me in the direction of that not being logical and that not being the right thing. Fast forward a number of years later, and we had 5 children, and we were loving life and had a wonderful experience with life. And my dear wife brought up foster care again. And I'm telling you, my reaction to this was the exact same that it was at the special needs dance that we went to at the institute. That is not logical, and it was more illogical now than it was 15 years prior to that. I thought about why she continued to bring that up, and in those early mornings, as Dave has alluded to, I spent a lot of time in those early mornings when it was really quiet and those 5 rambunctious kids were not around. And I thought more about that. And I still felt it wasn't logical. But I felt in my heart that it was something that I should probably start to consider. So I started to consider that. And that feeling in my heart continued to grow, and it still wasn't logical, but it started to feel right. Okay. Fast forward a few months later, I agreed to go through the foster care classes with Andrea, and I'll be honest, I went into it a little bit reluctantly, but I felt like it was maybe something that we should pursue. We went through the foster care classes, and it took us an entire year to go through these classes. And all during that time, I was still a little bit reluctant to do this. We completed the foster care classes, and that was right around Christmas time. And I thought, you know what? There's a high likelihood that we may get a phone call and have a placement in our home very soon. And I was scared to death about this. And all along, Andrea was all for this. Christmas came and went. Winter came and went. Spring came and went. Summer had come and was on its way out. And I thought, you know what? I don't think we're ever going to get a phone call, and I don't think we're ever going to do foster care. And secretly inside of my heart, I was kind of glad about that. I found myself at the end of summer, I took an annual trip to Alaska with my son, was with me, and we went fishing, and I got a phone call from Andrea, and she said, we got a call. There's 2 little girls, ages 2 and 1, that are here in Utah, and they need a home. And they said it's going to be like 2 weeks before that they'll be with us, and then they are going to move on. I said, great. How do you feel about it? She said, well, I already told them yes. So you know how I feel about it. I said, I love you and I trust you. And here we are. Fast forward now to where we are right now. And these little girls have become a part of our family. And we have not adopted them. And I don't know where that's going to go, but 2 months has turned into 8 or 9 months. And it's been a cherished experience for me. So here's why I share this. You are going to have things that are presented to you that are not logical. I'm an accountant by nature, and they aren't going to add up. The debits and credits aren't going to balance, right? When you think about it with your head and your logic, it is not going to make sense. As I look back at my life, professionally and personally, the more that I can follow with my heart and not my head, I find the better off things are. Everything good that has happened to me professionally and personally has been because I have followed what I feel in my heart in those early mornings, even when it doesn't seem logical. Many of the things that we're experiencing right now are not logical. They just aren't. But I promise you, if you will take time and get into very quiet moments, in moments when you can listen not with your head, but with your heart, and you follow what those feelings give you, you will experience more joy and more experiences that you probably never thought you were going to, that you will cherish than you can ever imagine. I always say this, there is life past the Wellsvilles. I grew up in Cache Valley. I grew up in Preston, actually, and it was always my dream to live in Cache Valley for my entire life. I am so thankful that I've been able to experience life past the Wellsvilles. And I would encourage you to seek out opportunities that will take you and push you to do greater things, as we say, and as what we all believe, dare mighty things. So that's my message, Dave. Hope everybody's doing well. And as always, if I can ever be a resource, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you, Brady. That was an amazing story. I always love listening to Brady. He always has some tremendous, great stories that resonate with all of us. If I could wrap up our 4 guests, what great advice and counsel they provided. Sara started with with telling us that, you know, she was scared to run for office, and yet she did that. And her advice was to do scary things. And Amy talked about, you know, be in this moment, however scary that may be. And Paul talked about focusing on launching as you launch into, especially our graduates, as you launch into the next phase of your life. And, you know, what I got out of Brady is part of what he just talked about as he ended, right? This is not logical. What we're going through is not logical. Who would have thought that we could actually shut down the world, basically? I don't know about you, but I've been, you know, on, as I like to joke with our students, the Twitter way too much. And, you know, you see all these images of especially huge urban areas. You see Shanghai or Mumbai or London that usually are just chock full of activity, and it's empty. It's just, it's mind boggling. This is not logical that we could do this. But out of all of that, as Brady talked about, I truly believe if you listen to your own voice and if you're open to opportunity, there are tremendous opportunities out of all of this. Just think, so those of us who are on this event, I don't even know what to call this thing, on this Zoom thing, right? So Zoom, so think about Zoom, right? Zoom was this little old company, maybe what, 2-3 months ago, that most people had never heard of. And I saw some statistic a couple of weeks ago that said about 300 million people are using Zoom every single day. Think about the opportunity that the founders of Zoom created. They didn't even know about that maybe in their wildest imagination when they created this company. There are opportunities every single day out of whatever life presents itself, as so many of our guests talked about today. So to all of you graduates especially, you know, dare mighty things is not just a slogan for us. And now is your tremendous opportunity to go out there and prove that. Let me just thank our guests one more time. Thank you very much for taking this time today. You know, it's in some ways life has slowed down, as a couple of you talked about, but in other ways it has really sped up. And so I know your time is important, and we appreciate you joining us today. And finally, before we leave, let me put in one last plug. We will be doing more events like this through the summer. I don't know about you, but since we went into all of this stay home, stay safe, as we say in Utah, I don't even know what day of the week it is, right? Monday, Wednesday, whatever. It's just another day. And I look at that as an opportunity to say, you know, we would have usually stopped all of our programming when this semester ended, because as you know, and during the summertime, campuses really slow down during the academic calendar. Well, we're looking at this as an opportunity to say, look, it's all sort of just running into one day after next, 1 week after next. And the opportunity there is that we're going to do a lot more of these events, virtual events. So we have a series of what we call power-ups, and you can catch them on YouTube, and we bring together alumni and corporate partners to talk about professional and career development. So I hope you'll join us. Thank you all once again. Go Aggies and dare mighty things.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you all.
Dave, have a good day. See ya.